Namaskar. I am Dr. Nalini Avinash Waghmare, working as Assistant Professor at Maharashtra Vidyapit, Pune. Today's our topic is related to Vijayanagar dynasty. So in this Vijayanagar dynasty, we have to study related to sources, famous rulers of Vijayanagar dynasty, then expansions of Vijayanagar territory, then administrative system of Vijayanagar period, then art architecture, Vijayanagar's rulers' contribution to art and architecture, as well as contribution to history and some reference books. This is the Vijayanagar Empire. Parallel, we have to study the Vijayanagara and Bahmani, both are South Indian dynasty. As we compare to North Indian, we have to Delhi Sultan Shahis, Mughals, Rajput dynasties. For South India, while we are studying the medieval period South Indian dynasty, these are the provisional states at that time, or provisional dynasty in South India, we can say. So here, Bahmani is contemporary with the Vijayanagara. Actually, Vijayanagara was the first Hindu dynasty which was established in 1336. Later on, 1347, the Bahmani dynasty established. So its places also we find that Ahmednagar, Bidar, Gulbarga, Bijapur, these are the some places. The same thing related to Vijayanagara. Bidar was the capital at that time. So here Halebeedu, Mysore, Karnataka, these are the expansions of Bijapur kingdom mentioned there up to the Madurai, Tanjore and other places. Then literary sources are available in various languages, Sanskrit, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, Marathi, Persian, Arabic. Even if you go to the archaeological sources, that temples, coins, inscriptions, monuments, forts, and foreign accounts give us a lot of information about to know the Vijayanagar dynasty. So here, sources of Vijayanagar dynasty: Burhani Masiri by Sayyid Ali bin Abdullah Tabtaba, the court historian of Ahmednagar Sultanate. Gulshan-e Ibrahim Ferista, the court historian of Vijapur. Then Kerala ul Mulk by Rafi Uddin Siraj, another court historian of Vijapur Sultanate. Decades the Asia by official Portuguese record keeper, then later by Goa governor Fateh-Nama Nizam Shah by Hassan Siddiqui, Deccani poet, along with Abdul Razak. Actually, most of the Vijayanagar related sources are available in Telugu, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, because some are say Kannada origin, some are say Telugu, some are say Maharashtrian original of this dynasty. So most of the sources available in 2-3 languages, but we have to refer the foreign sources which are also helpful to understand this Vijayanagar dynasty. So Abdul Razak, his travel one of the primary source of history on the cultural achievements of Vijayanagar kingdom. Then Niccolo Conte, his traveling gives a few glimpses of the royal court of Vijayanagara and throws light on the socio-economic condition of South India in general. Marco Polo, the great father of modern geography, was a native of Venice. His travel speaks of brisk maritime trade and commerce along with the Indian coast. He describes the life and condition of the common people and gives a vivid account of their dress, food, habits, manners, and social customs. Barbossa's a Portuguese officer in Cochin during 1500 to 16 is of great geographical and etymological significance and focus on South India and Vijayanagar kingdom. So Abdul Razak, Niccolo Conti, Marco Polo, Barbosa's, these accounts give a lot of information about the socio-economic, cultural, trade, internal trade and external trade related to Vijayanagar dynasty. Then directly we go to the brief information about Vijayanagar dynasty, 1336 to 1565. The year 1336 is a landmark date in the history of India and in particular the history of South India, and ought to be considered as the culture and heritage of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. But it was in that year that the foundation of the mighty Vijayanagar Empire were laid on the banks of river Tungabhadra in Karnataka by two brothers named Harihara and Bukka. They were two of the five sons of chieftain named Sangama, and inspired by Saint Vidyaranya of Sringeri Mata, began the process of creating a very great, glorious empire in South India. The reason for doing so was to thwart the growing threat of the Muslim invasion of South India. Their capital was called Vijayanagara, city of victory, which is now the ruined site of Hampi in Karnataka, where when we go to the Hampi, it gives information related to art and art, how rich they are, patronize the artisans and other things. Then four dynasties found in Vijayanagar dynasty: Sangam dynasty 1336 to 1485 AD, then Salva dynasty 1485 to 1505, then Tuluva dynasty 1505 to 1567, then Arabidu dynasty 1570 to 1646. Then Vijayanagara was ruled, four dynasties are involved there, but it was ruled by 16 rulers who ruled about 230 years from 1336 to 1565 up to the Battle of Talikota. Four different dynasties ruled over the kingdom, one after the another. Then out of the all the rulers of four dynasties, Devaraya II, Krishna Devaraya were the most important, deserve special mention in Vijayanagar dynasty. Then the Vijayanagara was established to protect the Hindu Dharma in the peninsula, bound up with endless wars with its northern Muslim neighbors, the Bahmani kingdom, and its five offshoot sultans of Berar, Bidar, Bijapur, Ahmednagar, and Golconda. To protect Hindu Dharma, this dynasty was established. Then the established Vijayanagar Empire in the 14th century is a book-making event not only in the history of South India but in India itself. The main objective of founders was to protect the Hindu culture and Dharma from being molested by the alien invaders who invaded India at that time. Then, as remarked by the eminent scholar Sri Krishna Swami Iyengar, the Vijayanagar Empire came into existence for the purpose of saving South India being completely conquered by the Muhammadans to save Hindu religion and give it a chance for its natural development. At least in this corner of India, without molestation from outside agencies, and to save for India as much as its culture and learning as it was possible to do. With this object before it, the empire came into being formally under Harihara II of Vijayanagara. Then these are the rulers raised and their chronology. Harihara period 1336 to 53. Then Harihara, Bukka, Harihara II, Devaraya first, Devaraya second, then Mallikarjuna, Virupaksha second, Narasimha, Krishna Narasimha, Krishna Devaraya, Achyutaraya, Sadashivaraya. Then Battle of Talikota, in which Vijayanagara was defeated by the Muslim states, Deccan. Then Tirumala captured power in Vijayanagara. Later on, Venkata II was the last ruler of this dynasty. However, the Vijayanagar kingdom is said to have been founded by five sons of Sangama, Harihara, Bukka, Kampana, Marappa, and Muddappa in 1336 AD. However, there are two main theories regarding the origin of these Sangam brothers, namely the Telugu original theory and the Karnataka Hoysala origin theory. Telugu, according to Telugu theory, what they want to say? Actually, in Telugu theory, according to this theory, the Sangama brothers, Harihara and Bukka, were in the service of Prataparudra Deva, the Kakatiya ruler, the former as a minister and the later as a treasurer. When Warangal originally fell, these officers were taken away as captives to Delhi, where the Sultan of Delhi had them converted into Islam. Later, the Sultan of Delhi appointed them governors of Kampali, Anigonda region. In the south, they came in contact with Saint Vidyaranya, who had then reconverted to Hinduism. Then they revolted against the Sultan of Delhi and founded the new Hindu empire of Vijayanagara. This theory, however, has been rejected by most of the scholars. Then Karnataka of Vaisala origin theory. According to this theory, Harihar and Bukka were in the service of Vaisala Ballala II, and they had blood relationship with the Vaisalas. Ballala II had become too old to safeguard his northern frontiers, and his son Virupaksha Ballala was a weaker. Hence, he gave to Harihara a free hand and necessary encouragement to tact his discretion on the northern frontier. Then, with zeal and gist to protect, preserve, and promote the Hindu social organization and the Hindu culture in all its aspects, Harihara came to settle down in his ancestor place, Hampi, founded an empire called it Vijayanagara after the city of Vijayanagara, built by him on the southern bank of Tungabhadra. Then outline of political history of Vijayanagara. The Vijaynagar Empire in course of time came to be ruled by four dynasties called Sangama dynasty, Salva dynasty, Tuluva dynasty, and Arabidu dynasty. Then let's go one by one briefly. Harihara first was the first king of Sangam dynasty. He founded the kingdom in 1336 with the help of his brothers. He built with the empire on a strong edifice and ended the political chaos. He was resolute, liberal, foresighted, idealistic, adept at statecraft, a mighty warrior and an able ruler or organizer. His empire extended south of Tungabhadra and was enclosed by the three seas. He is said to have repulsed an attack from Alauddin Bahman Shah, the first Sultan of Bahmani kingdom, founded in 1347. He died childless in 1356. Then Bukka first. As Harihara first died childless, he was succeeded by his younger brother Bukka first in 1336 AD. To him goes the credit of destroying all hostile powers in the south. He is said to have overthrown the kingdom of Shambhu Varaya in 1360 and Sultanate of Madurai in 1370. The destruction of Madurai Sultanate was a great achievement of Kumara Kampa, son of Bukka. Bukka had to fight many battles with the Bahmani kingdom, and this continued for a long time. Many kings, including the rulers of Malabara and Ceylon, paid tribute to him. He even sent an embassy to the court of Mings, the emperor of China, in 1374 AD. Bukka promoted art, architecture, and literature. Bukka died in 1777 AD. Harihara II. Bukka's eldest son, Kampa, presented Bukka. Hence, his second son, Harihara II, succeeded his father to the throne in 1377. He extended his dominion in Konkan beyond Goa to Chaul, and in Andhra, he controlled the fort of Udaygiri and captured Pangal to the north of the Krishna from the Velamas. He even defeated the Bahmani. He died in 1404. Devaraya I and his sons. After the death of Harihara II, 1404, there was a war succession among his sons. Devaraya first ascended the throne. He extended his dominion in the northeast. However, he suffered a humiliating defeat at the hands of Firoz Shah, the Bahmani Sultan. He died in 1422. Devaraya first was succeeded by his son Ramachandra in 1422, and the latter was soon overthrown by his younger brother Vijayaraya, who ruled for 2 years, 1422 to 1424. Devaraya II was succeeded by his son. Vijayaraya was succeeded by his son Devaraya II in 1424. He was most powerful and ablest among the Sangam kings, and turned his enemies to the death. He was all-round development in military, political, cultural space. the glory Vijayanagara Empire spread far and wide. In the east, Devaraya II repulsed the three invasions of Vijayanagara territories by Gajapatis, first by Gajapati Bhanudeva in 1427, second by Gajapati Kapilendra in 1436, and third by Kalinga rulers in 1441. In this war against the Bahmanis, he is said to have lost Mudgal fort. However, Devaraya II collected tribute from the kings of Ceylon, Calicut, Burma, Pegu, Tanasian, who recognized his paramountcy. Abdul Razak, the Persian ambassador who visited Vijayanagara in 1443, was stunned by the glory and grandeur of the empire. Devaraya II was not only a valiant warrior but also an able administrator and a great patron of art, architecture, religion, and literature. Then Mallikarjuna and Virupaksha III. Devaraya II was succeeded by his son Mallikarjuna 1446. He was utterly useless king and glory of Vijayanagara Empire gradually faded away. The neighboring rural kings, including Bahmani sultans and Gajapati, caused disaster on all sides and defeated the Mallikarjuna. This disaster threatened the integrity and stability of the empire, and Mallikarjuna lost his power, prestige, and position. In 1465, Mallikarjuna's cousin Virupaksha III seized the throne. However, Virupaksha III was equally a worthless and incapable king who cared for nothing but women and wine. The Bahmani sultans conquered the northern moon with Goa, Belgaum, and some areas in the northern Karnataka. The onslaughts of Bahmani sultans continued till Salva Narasimha, a royal commander of the army, seized the throne in 1485 and saved the situation. Thus ended the rule of the Sangam dynasty. As we already mentioned that Vijayanagara was ruled by the fourth dynasty. Now let's see second one. Salva dynasty. Salva Narasimha was the first of this dynasty. As noted above, he was a loyal commander of the empire and was the son of Salva Gowda, the governor of Chandragiri. Salva Narasimha put down all opposition with an iron hand and consolidated his power in the south. He had conquered Udayagiri, Kondavidu from the Gajapatis. His commander Tulusan Iswara and captured Nagamangala, Bangalore, and Srirangapattanam for his master. While making mighty preparation for undertaking war against the Umatur chief in the Mysore reign, Salva Narasimha died in 1491. Then Narasanayaka and his successor. Salva Narasimha had two minor sons, Timmani Immadi Narasimha, also known as Salva Narasimha II. Hence, he appointed Narasanayaka, son of Ishvara, as a regent with instruction to enthrone them when they came of age. However, Prince Timma was murdered by Timmarasa, who was a minister and an army commander. The Immadi Narasimha was crowned by Narasa Nayaka. However, sometime Immadi Narasimha was an emperor only in name, as the real power in the hands of the Narasanayaka himself. Thereafter, Narasanayaka imprisoned Immadi Narasimha in Penugonda and seized the throne. So Narasanayaka restored the old frontiers of the empire and brought a new life to it. He died in 1503 and was succeeded by his son Veera Narasimha, Tuluva Narasimha. 2 years later, 1505, Immadi Narasimha was murdered in Penugonda, and with him, the Salva dynasty also came to end. Then Tuluva dynasty, 1503 to 1570. Tuluva Veera Narasimha spent much of his time in meeting the rebellious chiefs. So Veera Narasimha was the founder of this Tuluva dynasty. With the help of Aravidu Timmasa, he repulsed the invasion of Mudgal and Raichur by Yusuf Adil Khan of Bijapur and courted the friendship of the Portuguese, who had reached the Indian coast in 1498. He died in 1509 and was succeeded by his stepbrother Krishna Deva Raya. Krishna Deva Raya, one of the greatest rulers in Bahmani dynasty. His period is 1505 to 1529. Krishna Deva Raya, the greatest among the rulers of South India, one of the most illustrious king of India, was a man of versatile genius. He was a matchless warrior, an able administrator, and a lover of art and architecture, a patron of literature and religion. Removal of internal dangers. After ascending the throne, the Krishna Deva Raya taken the steps to control the powers. Soon after his coming to the throne, Krishna Deva Raya defeated the Gajapati in 1509. Next year in 1510, he defeated to the combined armies of Sultan Muhammad Shah II of Bahmani Kingdom and Govilkonda. His next achievement was the conquest of Srirangapattanam and Shivasamudra after defeating the chief of Ummatur in 1512. The same year, he conquered the Raichur, which was in the hands of Bijapur for almost 20 years, and Mangalore also. Moreover, Krishna Deva Raya had helped the Portuguese Governor General Albuquerque to conquer Goa from Bijapur in 1510 and thus maintained friendly relations with the Portuguese. Thus, he removed the internal dangers. Then wars with the Orissa. The emperor then turned his attention to the east and conquered the fort of Udayagiri from the Gajapatis of Orissa after a long siege. This major success was followed by his conquest of the forts of Kandukar, Venugonda, Nagarjunakonda, Bellamakonda, Andagi, Kettavaram. In June 1515, he subjugated Kondavidu. This was followed by his capture of Vijayawada, Kondampalli and Nalgonda. Next, he subdued Telangana, defeated and annexed Rajamendri and proceeded as far as Simhachalam. He erected a pillar of victory at Potpur in memory of this conquest. Finally, Krishna Deva Raya attacked Gajapati Prataparudra and captured Cuttack, the capital of the Gajapatis. Gajapati Prataparudra was forced to sue for peace in 1518 and he gave his daughter Jangamohini in marriage to Krishna Deva Raya, who in return handed over to him all territories of north of Krishna. His war against Golconda and other campaigns. During his absence in Orissa, the king of Golconda, Qutub Shah, seized Kondavedu. However, Krishna Deva Raya, on his way back, defeated the Golconda army and took its commander captive. His other campaigns are when Adil Shah of Bijapur conquered Raichur in 1523, it was reconquered by the Krishna Deva Raya. The emperor then marched on Gulbarga and freed the Bahmani Sultan, who had been imprisoned by his own subordinate nobles. Krishna Deva Raya crowned the Bahmani Sultan at Gulbarga and assumed the title establisher of the Yavana kingdom. Then he returned to Vijayanagara in 1523 and ruled peacefully after this. Estimate of Krishna Deva Raya. Krishna Deva Raya was one of the greatest ruler of India. He was no doubt a unique personality and versatile genius. It was during his days that the Vijaynagar Empire reached the highest pinnacle of its glory in all the directions related to military, political, religious, art, and literature. Krishna Deva Raya was a matchless warrior, a fearless administrator, a practical politician, an excellent organizer, a man of amazing resourcefulness, a lover of art and architecture, a great patron of men of letters, and above all, a man of much gentleness and generosity of character. He was a king par excellence. Achyuta Raya. Krishna Deva Raya was succeeded by his stepbrother Achyuta Raya in 1529. His reign was a period of internal strifes and foreign invasions. Taking advantage of the internal strifes in the empire, Adil Shah of Bijapur had captured the fort of Raichur, but Achyuta Raya reconquered the fort in 1535. He spent the rest of his life in suppressing the rebellion at Ravanakur. Achyuta was an able king and faced his adversaries with courage. He died in 1542 AD. Then Sadashivaraya and Ramaraya. Achyutaraya was succeeded by his young son Venkata in 1542. As he was still young, his maternal uncle Salva Timmaraju assumed regency. However, he killed his nephew Prince Venkata and usurped the throne. But Aravidu Ramaraya, alias Rama, supported the claims of Sadashiva, son of Ranga, brother of Achyuta. This led to a war between groups in which the Salanka Timmaraju was defeated and killed. That is how Sadashiv, who was still a minor, ascended the throne in 1543 with the help of Ramaraya. However, between 1443 and 1550, Ramaraya acted as a regent, exercising the royal functions, and when the Prince Sadashiv Rai became a major in 1551, Prince Sadashiv became a major in 1551. He imprisoned him, and Ramarai himself became the de facto ruler of the empire. He appointed his brother Tirumala a minister and his other brother Venkatadri the commander-in-chief. Ramaraya was a master politician, a tactful diplomat, an able administrator, above all, a valiant warrior. Then suppression of the rivers in the southern provinces. When rivers broke out in southern provinces, Chandragiri reigns, they were quickly suppressed by his cousin Channa Timmanna and Vittala. The king of Kandy in Ceylon was forced to pay tribute to Vijayanagara. He was hostile to Portuguese, and at one time he even attacked their settlements at heavy tribute from them. His policy of divide and rule in Deccan Sultans. Like any wise diplomat, Ramaraya adopted a policy of divide and rule policy and interfere in the affairs of Shahi Sultans and thereby enhance the power, prestige, and position of the empire. In 1543, Ramaraya helped the Nizam Shah of Ahmednagar and the Qutub Shah of Golconda against the Adil Shah of Bijapur and the Shah of Bidar. Declared a war on Ahmednagar, Ramaraya helped the Nizam Shah of Ahmednagar to capture the fort of Kalyan. However, in 1558, Ramaraya aided Ali Adil Shah of Bijapur to secure the fort of Kalyan from Ahmednagar. 5 years later, all Adil Shah of Bijapur captured Kalyan with the help of Ramaraya and the Sultan of Bidar. By this time, Ramaraya was at the height of his power and his empire extended up to the borders of Krishna River in the south. So here the Ramaraya used the diplomacy to take the power of the one sultan's of army, take the help of him and attack the another sultan. So this type of intrigues or diplomacy he used, which is the later on cause of the failure of the or downfall of the Vijayanagar dynasty. Then the Deccan Sultan now realized that it was their mutual jealousies and disunity that was responsible for the discomfiture which had in a strange way contributed to the supremacy of Vijayanagara and the triumph of Ramaraya, their greatest common enemy. Hence, they set aside their differences and presented a united front with an iron determination to curse it. So, according to the combined armies of 4 Deccan dynasties, Ahmednagar, Golconda, Bijapur, Bidar, near Talikota on the northern bank of the Krishna, Ramaraya decided to meet the challenge with all his might. The great and decisive battle was fought on Tuesday, January 25, 1565. In the beginning, it looked as if Vijayanagara was going to win the day. At this time, the Muslim soldiers appointed by the Hindu king became turncoats and went back to their brethren who were fighting for the sultans. This turned the tide of the events and Ramaraya was captured and killed by the enemy. His head was fixed on an upheld sword, the sight of which caused panic in the Vijayanagara army and it fell in all directions. The Muslim forces entered the capital and plundered it for several months. The battle was lost and the great city of Vijayanagara was ransacked. Commenting on the fate of the city of Vijayanagara, Robert Swale writes, never perhaps in the history of the world has such an evoke been wrought so suddenly on so splendid a city, teeming with a wealthy and industrious population in the full plenitude of prosperity one day and on next season, pillaged and reduced to ruins amid scenes of savage massacre and horrors begging destruction. Whole city was destroyed by the Sultanates, Bahmani Sultanates. Then Battle of Talikot in short in the picture which showing the Deccan five sultans that there are Avinash, Bijapur, Bidar, Golconda united and they fight against the Vijayanagara near Talikota. The place is showing there. So here Vijayanagara was defeated. It was took place in 1565. The battle of it is also called as a Talikota or Rakasatangadi, which are the two places name. So it was followed by the breaking up of the Vijaynagar Empire and the political disintegration of the South India. The empire, for the name's sake, continued its existence in the southern parts. The Shah of Golconda and Vijapur captured its northern territories and its fugitives like of Kerala and Mysore in Karnataka and Nayaks of Tanjore, Madurai and Jinji in Tamil Nadu raised their heads later on. After this fatal events, Karnataka lost its political unity for about 4 centuries. So, result of the Talikota War. The Vijayanagar Empire lost its glory. The successful Shahi army looted the city for many months. The Portuguese were restricted to Goa region. Without the support of Vijayanagara, it was a setback to their trade. Religious endowments to centuries like Sringeri, Tirupati, Sri Shaila, Kalasthi stopped. This was an obstacle to the development of the religion later on. Arabidu dynasty, which started its rule from Penugunda and Chandragiri in Andhra Pradesh, was unable to gain control over the region of South India. The feudatories of Vijayanagar Empire like Palekars became independent. This led to the disintegration of Vijayanagar Empire. Then last dynasty, Arabidu dynasty. Arabidu family hailed from Arabidu in the Kurnool district and rose to prominence under the Salva Krishna Devaraya, who gave his daughter in marriage to Ramaraya and thus arose the royal connection. When Ramaraya was killed, his brother Tirumala hastened to the capital Vijayanagara and collected all the treasuries he could, gold, jewels and jewelry thrown, which were loaded in 1550. The 1,550 elephants, along with the royal ladies and Emperor Sadashiva, marched towards Penugonda from where he started ruling from 1565. He assumed the powers of Ramaraya and Tuluva Sadashiva, continued to be their emperor till 1570 when he was murdered. Thereafter, Tirumala became the de facto ruler of the empire. He divided his empire into 3 linguistic provinces, mandalas, Andhra under his eldest son, Sriranga, then Kannada region under his second son, Ramaraya, and the Tamil country under his third son, Venkatapati. This division of empire invited many internal and external troubles. Then Sriranga II and Venkatapati. Tirumala was succeeded by his eldest son Sriranga II in 1579. Later on, the country was torn by civil war between the other rulers. After the death of Sriranga III, the last ruler of Vijayanagara, and Sriranga III was the last ruler of Vijayanagar dynasty. Then what were the causes of downfall of this Vijayanagar dynasty? Conflict between always with Bahmani dynasty is the main reason people frustrated of war. Then weak successor after the Krishnadevara, there is no other strong ruler that says so, and more reason to failure of the Vijayanagar dynasty. Then moral downfall of the people. Sometimes they join the enemy, sometimes they are always busy with what we say war. That is the main reason the people who are not interested to in war, and sometimes they are corrupted by the enemy rulers to them. Then interference of Portuguese in administrative, one more reason, the failure of Vijayanagar dynasty. Then subjects are more luxurious because in the we see in the Vijayanagar period is a rich golden period, as well as most of the people are living happily, everything is available to them, and they became lazy and they are not interested to fight against enemies. That is also one more reason failure of this dynasty or downfall of this dynasty. Then low military system was there because they used the elephant instead of other dynamic weapons. Then injustice to Muslim subjects because the Vijayanagar dynasty established protect the Hindu religion, Hindu culture. That's why it's one more reason they're not given equal justice to Muslim. It's more one reason the differences, conflicts, Hindus and Muslims started. That's why it's a failure one. Then day by day provisional authority increased, and then religious intolerance policy also caused failure of the Vijayanagar dynasty. Then what was the society structure in Vijayanagar period? Religion, four religions are there: Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Shaivism. But most of the people given importance to Hindu religion and propaganda of these two religions, Shaivism and Vaishnavism. Bhakti movement started at that time with Dasa Sampradaya was also there, and Veerashaiva movement also existed, continuing at that time, and the rulers patronized this religion also for granting land to them and mathas, even translation of books. Then Madhvacharya, Purandardas, Kankadas became famous reformer of this Bhakti movement. So Das Sampradaya started then. Then Jain worship also exists in the Sravana Belagula and Kammada Halli. They are two reference give us information that the rulers are intolerant, one, and patronize the other religions also, and follower of Hinduism, Jainism, Shaivism, and Buddhism also there. Then position of women at that time, the sources give information, Sati system was there. That's why Sati Veeragal found everywhere. Then Devadasi system is also existing at that time. Child marriage also practicing that time. Then widow remarriage also existing. Widows not allowed to remarriage. There are so many restrictions to her. Then although some famous women writers are also there in this critical situation, Ganga Devi, Abhirama Kamakshi, and Pirma Lamba. Among the some women writers of this period, Ganga Devi, Abhirama Kamakshi, and Tirumala represent respectively the early medieval and closing periods of Vijayanagar ruler in Karnataka. Ganga Devi's Madhura Vijayam Veera Kamparaya Charitra may be regarded as the earliest available Mahakavya of this period. She narrates in a simple and charming style the successful explanation of her husband Kampana, the second son of Gupta first. Tirumalamba was probably one of the ladies in waiting in the Krishnadevara's palace. She wrote a Champu Kavya called the Varadambika Parinayam, in which she described the marriage of Achyuta with his queen Varadambika. Then she was a scholar in many languages, knew many scripts. Then Vijayanagar Empire, let's see briefly administrative system of Vijayanagar dynasty. The Vijayanagar Empire adopted the old political administrative traditions of the Hoysalas, Sevunas, Kakatiyas, the Pandyas. Suitable changes according to needs and times, moods of the time or needs of the time. King is the head of the administrative. Monarchy was the form of the government there. King was the pioneer of administrative, and king were not absolute but limited by custom and conventions. The emperors of Vijayanagar Empire always promoted social and moral. Allasani Peddana says he ruled over his subjects with the kindness as if they were his own children. Succession through he was generally appointed as Yuvaraja during the lifetime of the monarch, and he was associated with the administration. However, during the minority of the king, the administration of the empire was carried on by regents. some ministers also there. The emperor carried on the administration with the assistance and advice of council of ministers headed by the prime minister known as Mahapradhana. The prime minister and other ministers were army officials. The minister of Vijayanagar were not only well versed in the Shastras but were also military commanders. Dr. K. M. Panikar is of the view that Vijayanagara was essentially a military state. Its organization reflects the primary purpose of maintaining successful resistance against the Muslim. However, Vijayanagar state was a benevolent one and the people lead a comparatively easy, pleasant and contented life. This has been attested to by the foreign traveler who visited Vijayanagara. Then secretary also helped the king. Secretary, which was popularly known as Diwan Khana. The king's secretaries were said to have maintained register and his orders were authorized by a seal impressed in a wax from one of the rings of the king. The chief secretary was known as a Raya Swami and other secretaries were called Rayasa. The income of the time is state collected almost one half of the gross produce as the revenue. Other sources of income include tax such as house tax, shops, profession taxes, custom duties, which were collected at fairs and marketplaces. Taxes were collected both in cash and kind. The prosperity of Vijayanagar Empire speaks volumes for its financial soundness. The empire issued gold, silver, and copper coins. Then administrative unity is that the empire, Vijayanagar Empire, divided into provinces known as mandalas. Then again mandalas appointed as their some place Rayas. Then a Raja was further divided into Vishya, Venta, also Kottam in Tamil Nadu. This was further divided Naidu, Sime, that into the Kampasana Sthala. At last, administrative unity is a group of villages. The village and town assemblies, which had existed from long, continued to look after local officers, whether social, economic, administrative, or judicial. Then Indian foreign trade was existing at the time. Vijayanagar Empire had a gold standard with a gold currency. Spice, iron, one, coconut, jaggery, limestone, rice, sugar, and textile were exported on a large scale. Imported horses from China and other goods such as copper, coral, mercery pearls. Then velvet. Calicut was the busiest port on the Malabar coast and merchant from South Africa. Trade in jewelry and precious stones was going on scale that baffled the foreign visitors. Then Sanskrit language also patronized by the Vijayanagara time. The Sanskrit language and literature founded a tremendous encouragement at the hands of the rulers of Vijayanagara. And some of themes were scholars of distinction. Most of the name Madhavi indicating thereby Vidyaranya Madhava as the inspirer. The learned scholars of this period names are mentioned Vidyaranya in the left side name of the author and right side of the book Vidyaranya's Sarvadarshana, the Sayana, Devana Bhatta, Smriti Chandrika, Ganga Devis, Chandrakavi, Rajanatha II. Then Krishnadevaraya himself also an author. He wrote the book Sangita Suryodaya, Madala Charitram in Sanskrit, Rasa Manjari. So Krishnadeva was author of famous books like Amukta Maulada and Jamavati Kalyanam in Sanskrit. Krishnadeva's Sanskrit works include other things. The Prime Minister of Sarvatimma was the also author of Bala Bharata Vyakhyana. Then there are more contribution to art and architecture is there. Percy Brown called the Vijayanagara art as the supremely passionate flooring of the Dravidian style. The Vijayanagar temples borrowed many features, including detailed ornamentation from the earliest monuments of the Chola, Chalukya, Pandyas, and Hoysalas. Then the general feature of Vijayanagara is that every Vijayanagara temple is characterized by a strong enclosure to a high gateway crowned by Raya Gopuram style. Then the gateway is made of granite and hard stone, and the Gopura stupa structure is made of brick and wood. Then the top of the Gopura there is a Shikara, which resembles a barrel made to rest of dates. Then in addition to this, earlier temple had a large Kalyana Mandapa or Vasanta Mantapa and a number of other mantapas. The main temple has an additional Garbhagriha shrine for the female deity. Moreover, much beauty of Vijayanagara style is reflected in the pillars and yes, Nilkanta Shastri stated that pillars was perhaps the most striking feature of Vijayanagara style. Then even their architecture, we want to see Srirangam in Tiruchirappalli. So main features of Vijayanagara architecture here, the Dravidian style. That period was strong granite rocks they are used. Then high quality of stones they are also used. Monolith pillars, ornament brackets, decoration on exterior side of the walls. Right side Shiva temple at Hampi also they use. This shows that one their architecture. Then outstanding other temples are Vittal Ramaswamy temple, Hajara Ramaswamy temple, Krishna Swami, then Bhuvaneshwari, Achyuta Devaraya, Virupaksha, Konda Dharma, etc. temples are there. They sent famous old temples at Srirangam, Chidambaram, Kanchi, Guruvatti, Kemalapuram, Tondapartri, Lepakshi, Bhatkal, and other places, and also 1,000 pillars, sculpture halls, pavilions, and added to extending ones were built as beautiful manner. Virupaksha and Vittal temple at Hampi. If you want to know really the Vijayanagara in a life, you definitely visit the Hampi, which is the witness of the Vijayanagara. Most of the foreign Indian tourists visited every year there. Then Vittal Swami temple is the by far the most ornament of all the Vijayanagar temple. The Hajar Ramaswamy temple is a comparatively small but a highly ornamented shrine built by Krishna Devaraya. Achyutaraya temple, even Krishna Swami and Achyutaraya temples were designed in Dravidian style. They are also considered rectangular bases. Then Hajar Ramaswamy temple at Hampi and ceilings and pillars of in Vittal temple. Then throne platform and secular other buildings are also existing. Those also give a lot of information of Vijayanagar. Then Vijayanagar sculpture is sun god, Vishnu, Sri Devi, Narasimha Swami. Like this, their what we sculpture contribution we find. Then they also patronize the painting. The art of painting also flourishes at Vijayanagara. The ceiling of Kalyana Mandapa Virupaksha at Hampi has paintings which beautifully depict Dasavatara. With the Virabhadra temple of Lepakshi has several hundreds of motifs on its ceilings, which represent stories from Shiva Purana. Lepakshi has rightly been called the Ajanta of the Shaivas. Then fine arts also patronized by the rulers. Vidyaranya Ramananda were two great scholars who wrote on this music in Sanskrit. Purandar Das made it highly popular by composing simple songs in Kannada and singing them. A dancing hall was attracted to royal palace where royal ladies were trained in the art of dance and music. Vijayanagar, Domingo Space claimed Vijayanagar to be as large as Rome, a very beautiful one. This is the best provided city in the world, he added. Even Abdul Razak also stated that the people of the eye has never seen a place like it. And the ear of intelligence has never been informed that there existed anything equal to Vijayanagar in the world. Then what were the causes of this dynasty? The country was torn by a civil war that followed the death of Venkatapadre, and the country declined and disintegrated rapidly. By the close of the 17th century, the Deccan Sultan captured good part of the empire. Feudatories such as Wadayars of Mysore and the Nayaks of Giladi, who inherited some parts of the empire, continued the old traditions. Then what's its contribution to Indian culture and literature? Of course, the rulers of Vijayanagar fought against the Hindu rulers of Orissa, Warangal, other, but their main enemies were the Muslim states of South, with whom their struggle was not only political but cultural as well. The king was assisted by council of ministers. The rulers appointed Yuvaraja during their lifetime with a view to avoiding war of succession. Besides, there were numerous departments and civil officers and other servants. The head of provinces was called Prantapati, who enjoyed wide powers. The village was smallest unit. Panchayat system also looked there. Then the primary source of income of state was tax and other things. They also patronized the Vaishnavism, Shaivism, and other things. Even some social evils they wanted to there. Then contribution in music, dance, and painting also. And literary contribution encouraged the Sanskrit, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and other languages. Even the Krishna regarded best specimen of Hindu architecture. So Vijayanagara was established to protect Hindu Dharma in the peninsula from inroads of Islam. This is well authenticated by numerous inscription writings, foreign travelers, and indigenous authors. This is only a meager sketch of immense mass literature in Sanskrit produced in the post 400 years of Vijayanagar rule. The importance of it cannot be gainsaid for the cultural history of our country, if not for the world. So Vijayanagar contributed to protect the Hindu religion, culture, tradition, as well as encourage the art, architecture, literature, and culture. So these are the reference books I have referred for this lecture.